Alrighty. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world, even though we're live in the Access Consciousness North America group. Welcome to week 5 of 10 weeks of receiving a fucking body process. I'm here this week with the man himself, 3-day body facilitator and co-creator of SOP, Dr. Anthony Mattis. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Jalen.
So for anyone who's like just tapping in and hasn't sort of been following along with what the heck is going on, this 10-week challenge is just an invitation to play, to receive, and really receive in every area of your life, including from the magic of the Access Consciousness body processes. They've been such an amazing gift in my life, and I made a demand a few months ago to receive dynamically more. And as I've been playing with them even more than I already loved them before, so much has been expanding and changing in my world. And so if you just love the body processes, get together with other people and trade, receive them, pay somebody to run them on you. If you're a body process facilitator, host trades in your area, create classes in your area. And if you, whether or not you've been to a 3-day body class or not, like get to another one. You can never go to enough. Like they're all different every time because we keep evolving and changing. And like I've done these sort of challenges every year in some different sort of iteration. And this year it was like really fun to invite 3-day body facilitators on every week to do a live and just talk about the magic of bodies. And so I would love to just sort of have you share with us like what inspired you to become a 3-day body facilitator and just sort of tap into your world and like what you know about bodies and the gift that they are.
Yeah, well, for me, my background, I've been working with bodies since like 1985. So I've always been into athletics, and then I started working in like health clubs and stuff since my junior year in high school. So, working with the body and stuff is something that has always been fun for me. And I went on to become a chiropractor and, been studying a lot of different modalities and techniques over the years. And then fast way forward, I get to access consciousness. So for me, it was just a natural progression. Like, of course, I'm gonna, become a 3-day body facilitator because it's something that I do. I've been working on bodies forever. That's something that's easy for me. And I always knew that there was something else that was possible than what, like, the mainstream allopathic model or medical model presents us with, and so yeah, it's been fun. I love being a 3-day body facilitator, and the tools were created by Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun to create possibilities and space and ease and communion, just more awareness of your own body, because a lot of people are very disconnected with their bodies, like extremely. And it's not about eating right or exercising properly. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about like really being connected with your body and discovering what works for you.
Mm. So say more about that because I know I'm going to be sharing this out too. So there'll be some people who maybe have never even heard of access or have never even gone down the path of like exploring that sort of conversation. So what do you know about that? For somebody who's maybe never even thought about that before.
Yeah. Well, which piece? With bodies or with access consciousness?
Well, I know it's like welcome to this whole big
Yeah.
like rabbit hole of possibilities you can
Yeah.
tap into. But specifically the part you just mentioned about like really being more aware and present with your body outside of, eating right and exercising right and all of that.
Yeah. I don't, it's just it's something that's like for whatever reason, it's hit me like between the eyes recently within the last year or so, where I'm like, it's like the way I watch people like sort of be with their bodies. And I'm like, do they even realize they have one?
Oh,
Because it's like, I don't know. It is just such an intense level of abuse and judgment that people have with their bodies. It's such a disconnect. You know what I mean? It's like some people are so disconnected from their bodies that it's like they can have like a a thorn sticking in it, like they might have a thorn from their shirt sticking in their neck, and they're so disconnected that it's like rubbing all day long and they're bleeding, and they don't even realize that that's like even occurring. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just really bizarre. And I watch people use their bodies as sort of like, I don't know, like the garbage disposal that we have in our sinks.
Mm.
There's just like, I don't know, there's just a disconnect. There's just a lack of honoring. And the funny thing is, though, I watch people treat their bodies like crap, and a lot of them still live to a ripe old age. And then you have people who exercise and eat right, and they die young. And then some live old. So, if it was about eating right and doing all the right exercises, it's like the people who did it the right way would live to ripe old ages and die in their sleep, and then the ones who don't take care of their bodies would die prematurely, and that's obviously not the case. So for me, it's more a matter of like the joy of embodiment. It's like people just aren't having fun with their bodies like at all, and there's such an intense disconnection with their bodies. I just watch people. It's like even when their bodies are falling apart, it's like they think that by doing less of the same thing somehow will make it better. Or like if they medicate the crap out of it to cover their symptoms, but they don't need to change anything, like that's will make it better. And it's like, aren't you like listening to what your body is asking you to do? Maybe it's like more sleep, um, more rest, more recreation, more sex, you know, like something, more movement. It's just, I don't know. It's unbelievable. But I guess I realize how different I am, because now being 53 years old, it's like I know how I've been with my body, and I've seen what people have chosen with their bodies, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, I'm not even sure they're aware they have one.
Mm. So step one, awareness is the first step, right? You have a body, in case you didn't realize you had
Well, yeah, it's like wake up. It's like wake up, you know? And it's like, and then people use their bodies as such an intense source of judgment. They condemn it every day.
it.
Um, and this whole reality is based on judging your body and trying to find the perfect body. And if you don't have the perfect body, then you need to feel bad about yourself for not having the perfect body. And everybody's walking around depressed because they don't fit this utopian ideal of what a perfect body is supposed to look like. But nobody tells you that even those people, there's a few exceptions where people are born like, Greek gods, so to speak, physically, you know. But a lot of them, even them, it's like they have to eat a certain way, they have to deal with all these restrictions, and it's not fun. It's not fun because they always have to be in judgment of what they're eating and drinking. So there's only those really tiny select few that have like them perfect bodies that we all see like in magazines and stuff like that. And the rest of everybody else have to like, it's awful what people have to do. There's been some actors that even talked about it when they got in like great shape for a particular movie. They couldn't wait to just go back to having a normal life. They're like, look, my body's not meant to look this way. I was basically starving myself, and I wasn't even drinking water because I didn't even want to have water weight. I mean, that's insane to me.
Mhm.
It's insane to me. So there's no joy in that. Do I like to exercise? Sure. Do I like to move my body? Sure. But I don't like to do it to where it's like wearing myself out and going to take me away from having a good time, enjoying food, enjoying a nice glass of wine from time to time, and so on and so forth.
Awesome. Yeah, and like that judgment piece was what was really pinging when you were speaking earlier about like how some people live till, they're 90 or older and they eat like crap and smoke and whatever
Yeah.
else, versus people who like check off all the boxes and like get
Yeah.
right according to what they're supposed to eat and how they're supposed to move.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, it seems like that all comes down to judgment, right?
Totally. Totally. And it's like even with me, it's like I've had to reevaluate like how I choose to like exercise my body, because I'm like, I think what I'm doing is actually causing more pain and discomfort. And it's not easy, especially when you're used to doing something for a long time the same way. And it's like I need to really evaluate. It's like, do I want to be in pain? But yeah, I look good, or do I need to try something different so I can not have the pain, but still look in a way that I'm happy with and comfortable with, for me. And so, yeah, I've been reevaluating. In fact, I've actually taken some time off just to let my body to heal and rest, because I've really been in the question, like, okay, body, what do you require? Like, what do you require? And it's like, I require you not to do X, Y, and Z anymore, and especially with in regards to exercise. I'm like, okay, I'll stop doing that because it sucks being in pain.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about pain for a minute, because I know that that's something that a lot of people use sort of against their bodies rather than the possibility that it can be. So can you
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit?
Well, like with access, we look at pain as like an intensity, and we look at it's like an awareness that you're not willing to have, right? Because everything is energy, including your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And so when that all gets repressed, or maybe when it's not being expressed, especially like if you don't feel like you're sort of living your life, the life that you would like to live, that's a lot of repressed energy and a lot of frustration. And that in and of itself can cause body issues. It can cause pain. It can cause intensities to show up. If you're in fight or flight all the time, it's like if you're constantly like always on the go, always reacting, never feeling like you've done enough for the day. You never quite get to the to-do list. You always feel like you're adding more to the to-do list kind of thing. And it's like when you're constantly in that fight or flight, it can creates contraction in the body, which just from a musculoskeletal standpoint can create a lot of discomfort, neck pain, back pain, you name it. So you have to look at like the things that you're choosing that are creating that. The other part of it is, we go into sort of like, what is your body aware of? Our bodies are giving us information about the world around us all the time, both the physical world and the non-physical world as well. And so a lot of people can pick up on the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of other people. And if you're in the healing profession, or you don't even have to be in the healing profession, but if you happen to be like sort of like a healer, and really aware of what's going on in other people's world, mental and physical, you tend to sort of like take on their stuff physically, like a sponge. And especially if we're trying to understand why people are choosing the things that we're choosing, we'll actually start to mimic their physiology, both mental and physical. And so with access consciousness, one of the tools that we use when we do have issues going on with our body is we ask, who does it belong to? And we start to kind of explore the fact that maybe it's not yours. Maybe you're picking up on it from someone else. And then those times that it does belong to you, you have to look at like what you're actually creating with your body. What things are you choosing with your body? Is it unacknowledged or unexpressed capacities, abilities and gifts? Because that'll lead to a huge source of frustration for people if they're not like not if they're not being who they are, and you have all this potential. Where's the potential going? It's never at rest because it's energy's never at rest. But when you try to suppress potential, whatever that is, it will wreak havoc on your body because the energy will go inward instead of outward. So there's so many different variables when it comes to pain and why pain is what it is. And then sometimes I just like to keep it simple. It's like, okay, well, what are you doing? If you're doing something over and over again, your body's going to eventually say, can you stop doing this, please? So I try to keep it simple and very pragmatic. But then, like, when you go beyond that, it's like now we're getting into, okay, what are you aware of? Right? It's like, are you happy? I mean, happiness is a great remedy for getting rid of pain and discomfort and joy. Um, and I find that most people aren't happy. They're not happy with what they do for a living. They're not happy in their relationships. They know that they're not expressing themselves to their full potential or whatever. And all of those things start to add up over time and wreak havoc on the body.
Okay, so for someone who maybe is in that position, right, where that stuff has now compounded, they're in a lot of quote unquote pain and discomfort, like what would be a great first step for them to take to change that?
Well, I mean, number one, I would look at what you're choosing. What are you choosing with your body? Are you? Let's just keep it simple. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you happy? Do you like your job? How's your financial situation? I always start with stress. Look at the stresses in your life. Okay. How is your relationship at home? Um, then I would look at, okay, like what are you doing physically that might be irritating your body, right? And if there's nothing that you're doing physically that could be irritating your body, then I would start to explore, like, okay, who does it actually belong to? Is it someone else's or something else? And then we kind of like dive in, like, especially with access consciousness, it's definitely by far the weirdest and wildest, wackiest tools out there. And being like a holistic chiropractor, I've studied a lot of different healing techniques. And this is by far the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest. However, the most powerful that I've ever come across. So, what we like to do is we like to explore. Maybe you're picking up on someone else's stuff, or maybe you're picking up on something else, and now we're kind of getting into like the energetics of things and exploring something that's sort of like outside the box of the way, even like in the wellness and fitness world, even outside of that box. I mean, we're talking going way outside the box, which is great because it's awesome that it's actually available for people to actually look at and explore. But sometimes people also on the flip side make things super complicated, and it's like if you're hammering all day long, eventually your elbow's going to get irritated, right? And it's like, okay, either switch and use a different, what I mean, or you may have to find a new job, or maybe it's time for you to hire an apprentice. You know what I mean? Because if you've been doing the same thing for 25, 30, 40 years, the body's going to get irritated. So it's like maybe it's time to hire an apprentice where you actually delegate more of your duties and stuff like that. Now I'm just keeping it simple for a person who's never even heard of energy work, and or access consciousness for that matter. So, for me, I ask a lot of questions. Okay, what's going on? What are you doing? What types of things are you doing with your body? And then we just kind of explore and we go from there. When did it start? What happened when it started? What was going on in your life at the time? How is this, what's the stress factor? So we look at so many different variables.
Awesome. And I think those are really great reminders, even for someone who has heard of an energy work or who does play with access too, to remember to keep it simple, because we can even use the tools that we have, as amazing as they are, against ourselves and overcomplicate things.
Way overcomplicated. I see it all the time. And I'm like, I mean, like even when people are laying down receiving body process, for example, someone will be like, "Oh, my hand's going numb, or my hand's tingling," and I'm like, and they want to make it all significant about like what are they resisting, or maybe it's the specific process and the energy is moving, and yeah, sometimes it's that, but sometimes you just and I look at their neck and their neck's kinked like this, and it's like, being the chiropractor, I'm like, I think you're pinching the nerve in your neck, which is causing your arm. I'm like, so what if we like adjusted the pillows to where like your spine was level? And it's like making a little tiny body adjustment. All of a sudden the nerve pain goes away or the numbness goes away. So it's like, yeah, I remind people, it's like we need to keep it simple first. And then we actually start to explore like other things that it could be, especially like the things that are more chronic in nature, the things that you've had forever and ever and ever. That's really where you really have to start to explore things like what happened when it first began. How is your life? Are you happy? What was going on in your life at the time? It's just so many different. You have to be willing to ask the question and explore. You're sort of being like a detective. That
Awesome.
I say keep it simple and then branch out into like maybe the more intense, deeper things.
Hmm. Okay, so of course, right after you say keep it simple, you mentioned the physical and non-physical world earlier. So are you
Yeah.
willing to sort of dive into that just a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, this is gonna sound really weird, but it's like, look, everything is energy, okay? And even for the atheists out in the world and stuff like that, it's like, I know their point of view is like, okay, yeah, there is energy, but when you die, and then that's it. Well, okay, that's fine, but you're still susceptible to energy, even unseen energy. Okay, so whatever you think that might be, it doesn't really matter, but your body's going to be impacted by energy. I mean, even our cell phones, I mean, they emit energy. Our bodies are going to be affected by the electromagnetic waves that's created by our cell phones. So at least people who are atheistic believe in things like this, right? But then what I'm actually talking about is like more of the spiritual world. It's like, it's like spirits and ghosts can impact your body, especially if you're not paying attention to them. Anytime you run from any kind of awareness at all, that will also impact the body. So if you have different ancestors or relatives that are hanging around you, you may over time start to mimic some of their health conditions that they had when they were alive. And that's sort of like your body's way of giving you information that they're around. And the only reason why it's showing up in your body is because you're not really paying attention to them. But this is not really anything we're taught in this world. We learn these types of things in the Talk to the Entity classes that Shannon O'Hara created, who is the daughter of Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness. So that's super, super deep. I don't know if that's not a faint of heart type of conversation,
Mm-mm.
but it's something that I've learned to actually work with, and I've developed a lot of awarenesses, especially around mental illness. People who suffer with mental illness actually tend to have a capacity for the unseen realm, let's just say. And it's like the mental illness sometimes as shows up sometimes as a result of not acknowledging what you're aware of with regards to the spirit world.
Yeah, and like for me in particular, those tools have been such a gift and the willingness to like go down that path. I grew up really religious, like
Mhm.
really religious. So I was like, I like all the rest of these access tools, but I don't know about that stuff.
Mm.
And like the willingness to actually go there and acknowledge what I know and the things that I've seen change for other people, in particular to the mental illness conversation that you were just mentioning, is has been like tremendous. It's like how many people are walking around judging themselves because they've taken on some sort of mental illness label and thinking that they're just, the worst person on the planet when really they have these unacknowledged capacities that they don't have the tools to actually deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And they'll talk about the focus with, especially around mental illness, is it's a chemical imbalance. And okay, cool. So that's fine. But what's causing the chemicals to be out of balance? And what happens when because I've seen it. I've seen it obviously when people are doing a lot of drugs, or if people doing a lot of alcohol or something like that. That's definitely going to throw the chemicals out of balance. But that is something that we all can agree with. What you're eating and drinking is going to impact the body one way or another. But what about those people who don't drink and don't do drugs, and they go into a bipolar episode, or they're experiencing depression, like chronic depression? Okay, why are the chemicals imbalanced in those situations? And it's not like they've opened up the skull and they look at the brain and they see the chemicals firing or not firing a certain way. I mean, it's just sort of like assumed that the neurotransmitters or the brain chemicals are out of balance, but nobody's ever asking the question, okay, what's causing them to be out of balance? And for me, it was never enough to be like, well, they're just out of balance. It doesn't really matter why. And I'm like, okay, well, this person doesn't have any stress, like very little. Let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, their stress level is a 3. They're not doing drugs. They're not doing alcohol. Their life is better than it's ever been. And then they just went into a bipolar episode. Well, maybe it's something. Maybe something's triggering that chemical imbalance that may be outside of the box as we know it. And so what I've come to learn is like we may be getting impacted by things that are of the unseen realm. And that's that. And if we don't utilize the tools, or if we don't have tools in place, it can make anybody crazy.
Totally, totally,
Yeah.
totally.
And
Um,
what if we have an ability to actually like, it's like we have no problem believing that when you turn the radio on in your car, you're going to hear either a talk show or music or whatever, right? Well, how does that happen? Where's it coming from? Well, the magnetic waves are coming from the satellites in outer space, right? And where's that coming from? So what if we can pick up on the thoughts and feelings and emotions just like the radio in our car? you know? And so what if we're picking up on other people's stuff and it's sort of bouncing up against our own stuff? And then together it makes sort of like the perfect storm. So what if we are reacting to the thoughts, basically the electromagnetic frequencies of other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions from who knows, miles away, thousands of miles away, which impacts our own life stuff. And then together it kind of creates this physiological and biochemical response. But they never really talk about those types of things, or that being a possibility. And that's what I love about the tools of access, because it starts to explore that arena, and we have tools in place to help you to sort of like defrag your brain.
Yes. AKA the access consciousness bars, which are considered a body process.
Yeah, I'm trying to speak like to people who've never even heard of access. So I sound very elementary to all the access consciousness listeners. I apologize, but I figured people that never even heard of access may be listening to this. So.
Well, and what I love about the way that you're explaining this too is it's like sometimes when we have access to something, we kind of like get desensitized and get used to it.
Yeah.
And so to hear it a different way, no matter how long we've been playing with the tools, for me anyway, in my interesting point of view, is such a huge gift. Because you get it when you get it, and even when you hear the same thing over and over again, it doesn't like sink in until you're actually willing to receive it and actually willing to hear it.
Yeah.
So Facebook user, sorry I cannot see your name, is asking if you can talk about energy and weight, like suppressed energy and weight, and how that might show up in the body.
Well, it's one of the things that I've heard Gary say. It's like, again, so let's say you know that you have these capacities and you get these gifts, but you keep suppressing it, right? And so one of the things is because a lot of times our bodies will respond like a pun, right? So, or as a pun. So we'll be like, what are you waiting for? Like waiting, your weight. So when you suppress a lot of energy, there's an idea that it may actually put weight on someone. So if you were expressing yourself, just expressing yourself alone burns calories. I mean, think about that. If you're out creating your life, you're going to burn calories. Now, look, will that be enough to lose weight? I don't know, but it'll definitely change how you be and look in the world. I promise you that.
Very, very cool.
But it's never good to suppress energy, because all it does is it goes against you. Always.
Right. Ibtihal. Hi, Ibtihal. That was Harley from the comment. And I love that too, because as I've been looking at my own body, there's a few things going on. One, which I was talking to Danielle about last week, when I tend to lose weight, it usually goes like in my stomach area first and then my breasts, right? And I actually really love the size of my breasts right now. So there's a little bit of judgment there. I don't actually want to lose weight because I don't want them to get smaller. And so, our bodies are such this magical gift. I could just ask my body to change in the way I would like it to change without that having to change. But then there's also the other piece of as well, because I don't really tend to even eat a whole lot. So it's we're taught that oh, if you eat this or you eat too much, that's what's going to make you gain weight. And looking at the whole suppressed energy conversation, I love to take care of people, which is changing. I don't know that it's going to completely ever change because it's just fun for me. And some of the people that I have chosen to have in my life and quote unquote take care of, our bodies are such this magical gift, right? And so I've sort of taken on their energy without even realizing it, and holding all of that in also contributed to my body changing size and me gaining weight, right? You don't typically tend to think about.
Yeah. I know sometimes a lot when I go facilitate classes, my stomach decides to swell and I haven't even eaten anything.
Mhm.
And it's like, why? It's like someone hooked up a hose and started pumping air into my intestines. I'm like, why is my? It's almost having like a histamine response. It's like, what is it? Why is it reacting this way? But it's like it has an awareness. It has a lot awareness of what people are resisting. It has an awareness of the changes that's about to occur. It's maybe picking up on other people's stomach stuff. And so, you just have to be in the question, know that it doesn't belong to you. And it's like halfway through the facilitation, it's like it starts to change and it gets better, especially as you start to diffuse all that buildup. But when you take on people's shit, it's going to impact your body, and so it's like you don't want to take on their stuff in order to facilitate them. You want to be aware of their stuff without taking it on.
Yes, I'm asking for more of that for myself. And if anyone else out there is doing that, you can do that too.
Yeah.
So as we sort of start to like wrap up with everything that we've looked at today, like what do you know about the gift of the access consciousness body processes and sort of changing some of these things?
Well, the one of the gifts is it just helps you to give you clarity as like what your reality is with your body. So number one, it helps you to get more connected with your body. Number two, it starts to help you to listen to your body more, like what actually works for you and your body, not what's working for this person over here or what you're seeing on TV or on Instagram. What actually works for your body? And body, what would you like to look like? Like, what do you really want to look like, body? Forget about like what you see again as like the ideal body type, but it's like what's going to work for you. What would you like to look like? So it's like constantly being in the question with your body and having like an intimate relationship with your body. And then the other thing that the body processes do is they have this unique way of bringing up or exposing, let's say, your limitations. And it's great. And sometimes at first it's uncomfortable, but that's what you want because most people who come to Access, they've tried every other crazy modality, and so they're actually willing to look at their crap. And so I love the body process because somehow, some way, it sort of exposes those places that you haven't been able to change, and it gets you to look at maybe some of the unconsciousness and anti-consciousness that you have wrapped around those particular things. And so it's like it goes, here you go. Here, this is the thing that you've been wanting to change, and here's the reason why it's not working. So a lot of people sometimes will be like, I don't want to see that. Or they'll be like, okay, cool. What tools can I use now to finally change it? And then boom, as the facilitator, you remind people or you show them the different tools they could use to actually change it and go around it or go beyond it.
I love that. It's beautiful. That's awesome. Um, so there's a couple different ways you can get to a class and learn body processes within Access. So there's individual like 3 to 4 hour body process classes, and you can find a body process facilitator on the Access website. It's just accessconsciousness.com. We'll pop it in the chat when we hop off. Once you've taken a bars class, which is another different type of access body process, then you can take a 4-day class called the Foundation. And there's a couple different body processes in there as well. And then there's like my fave of faves, which is a 3-day body class where you spend 3 days all day just gifting and receiving the body processes with just light, gentle, kind, nurturing touch. And it's one of the most amazing experiences I've had so far. And so I know you have some 3-day body classes coming up. You're traveling all around the world all the time. And the cool thing about Access, if you're not familiar, it's in over 180 countries all around the world. So there are tons of facilitators, tons of classes going on all the time. And you are getting ready to go to the Czech Republic here, yes, in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So if that sounds light and fun for you, that's coming up in October. And then after that, you will be in Delhi in December.
Hmm. Hmm.
and then the end of December going into January in Vienna, Austria.
Yeah. Yay. Lots of adventures coming up.
Yes, yes, and always more. So definitely pop the link in the chat after we get off here as well, so that people can find you and choose a class with you if they would like.
Awesome. Thanks, Jalen.
So yeah, thank you so much again for doing this and for being here and just letting us into your world and your awareness around bodies and the gift and the magic that they
Awesome. My pleasure. Thank you.
are. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.